This for real better be the very last edition of my little mission to explain everything within the fishbowl of long procrastinated. After all, this is only supposed to be the very first part of a much broader mission that I call Mission De-procrastination. What I mean by that is attempting to snap myself out of a cycle of procrastination, perfectionism, and break free from the tendency of starting 99 things but never finishing one before I self-sabotage my online tie-dye shop into extinction by way of vlogging. How and why the fishbowl thing comes into play, I am very prone to staying stuck in a permanent state of planning. I figured the only way I'll ever possibly have a chance at finishing what's supposed to be the present day tour of incomplete projects consuming my tie-dye studio is if I were to gamify it and draw each thing at random pink. Okay, maybe I'll finally get this most shameful thing over and done with. A dye expiration or dye experiment, like an expiration time experiment with liquid dye. This is something that requires showing you as I tell you, because still to this very day, and it just crossed my mind, I could probably look in eBay and see if I'll be able to find in my order history when exactly it was that I first ordered these cotton, I should say, in air quotes, fabric squares. That will also tell me just about exactly how long I've been procrastinating, not only following through with this idea, but also how long the physical evidence of my first initial attempt at doing so has been sitting around my studio for. October of 2020 is when I first set out to start this whole tie-dye swatch thing. The original initial idea, I'm pretty sure, was the experiment with like the expiration times of each individual color and figure out how long it takes for the liquid dye to start losing intensity and vibrancy. Then I just got carried away with doing just the solid color swatches as they are, not testing for the different expiration times of each individual color. A few years after the fact, I started making the ice dyed swatches and have yet to ever circle back around to the first initial idea that those both sprouted from the dye expiration experiment. Whenever I'm scrolling through my camera roll, I can't recall ever seeing it. I want to do a Fig 4 display of the melted marbled rainbow. Since I happen to have a whole bunch of those pre-made on hand at the moment, I thought that would be cool for, again, for primarily the product page description to add some additional pictures. Also, like everything else, I'll have just even more imagery I can use. It's like evergreen, essentially. What's the weather forecast for the rest of this week? Because what really matters right now is the lows at night. The first hard freeze, even if it just comes close to those temperatures, the fig tree will be a goner. It's going to lose all of its leaves until midsummer next year. Not midsummer, but that's like when it gets tall enough. It doesn't actually get tall enough to use as a background for photography until about mid-July. I'll have to go back, look through my pictures and see exactly when this year was like the first time I was using the fig tree. That's another thing. Note to self, I need to start actually using this whiteboard for that. This is what it's for things I think of in the moment. I wrote down ID first fig pics of the year. Really, I should do it ideally for each of the last few summers so I can get kind of an average. Back to what this vlog is supposed to be all about. Pink one. Okay, I wonder if it's gonna be the most dreaded one of all. Shirts and tops to dye for myself. I have a whole bunch, an abundance of things to tie-dye for myself that I've yet to ever get around to. I might even have things from like prior to the stuff I ordered on eBay in like 2020, maybe 2021. Some shirts, some, I guess, blouses you could even call them, that just something different than the plain camis I normally always wear. Another reason is so that I can start being my own walking billboard in a sense. Oh yeah, right here is an example of something. Camis. I got these same kind that I like to wear, but more white ones. I did already do one of them, and I have at least, I think, 3 more of them pre-tied into geo designs, but one of them I made in the lava stone geo. I really like how the back of it turned out, but the front is just, that is a huge reason why I procrastinate ever making anything for myself, is because it never comes out like what I would consider awesome. Although there's never gonna be, really, if I'm being real with myself, there's never gonna be a point in time where I can feel absolute certainty that something's gonna come out. Like, it's, I don't know, like ice dyeing especially is unpredictable to some degree.
Later.
Oh, I did do Fig 4 pics of the melted marbled rainbow, and some I can use on the sunburst page too. I never actually looked at the weather forecast earlier today. I did open the app, but I just kind of like stared at the screen and never registered anything I was seeing. I'm gonna do that in just a second if I remember. This Saturday it might get down to 34. Tonight is otherwise supposed to be the coldest night. The tees I just tied, that in itself creates an entire microcosm of content opportunities. For example, the mindscapes hanging around what I call the tying table right now. That alone is an opportunity to immortalize what I consider an A-plus assortment of one-of-a-kind designs. Tried using these newer ring lights, even though they're not like ring lights, to add some additional lighting around the timetable. I haven't looked back on the clip I just filmed though to see whether or not it's like the lighting's any better. If it is though, I'll be able to start being more mindful of attempting to do the selfie thing, more like get screenshots to use as selfies on about pages and similar. But also, while mindscapes are hanging around the timetable and just like behind the bar like this, I could and should be taking the opportunity to get pictures of them just side by side like this in order to use as first and foremost, since website content is the top priority. Not to mention, whenever I'm capturing any form of content, the idea is I should be getting all the ratios. That way I have things that are just versatile and reusable for different, like across different platforms. I hate that word. Across different apps. These two shirts right here that are hanging next to one another, I only noticed this now as I was hanging them up. This one right here to the left is a size adult medium, and then these other two right next to it are a size adult large. These two are the same size. They're both Gildan heavy cotton. It's not like they're different brands of t-shirts or even different styles that have slightly different measurements. I'm pretty sure this medium is even longer than this large is. Yeah, just ever so slightly. I really like this one. I wouldn't mind keeping this as another mascot mindscape. I ended up deciding on doing some duo fig pics instead, while I still have probably in all reality just a few days left with the fig tree. About the selfie thing, all I wanted to say about that is just now as I was hanging these tees back up here in my cloffice, it crossed my mind that that's something I do need to make a habit of doing regularly, even if only for the sake of having pictures to use as thumbnails. That's something I've really been failing to ever stop and think of or have any forethought. Here's my thought process. What type of displays and images would I have, like, would be the most multi-use and versatile? By that I mean, something I already did. Here's an example of something I finished. Out of those pictures I got yesterday, and I had to sprinkle a few from like the past year or two throughout just to fill out the collage, but like what I call a graphic collage. I feel like the duo fig pics look especially good, much better than the fig 4 or fig 5 does, because that's, I don't know. Also, it should go without saying all the other things I can just use those pictures for endlessly. If I really expect to get through explaining all of what's remaining within this fishbowl of long procrastinated shit in this vlog, then okay, my finger was more on the yellow one. Orange one was just stuck within it. Wait, I already explained this. Okay, tank top segment and be my own walking billboard. So I must have said that at some point during this one segment. That was one of the first ever things I filmed. How many things have I made for myself since then, I wonder? Did I already explain this? This is one, however, that I started acting on recently, which is an ice dye experiment. So similarly to how I want to test the ice, like the liquid dye and expiration times, always wanted to put to the test different ice cube shapes and sizes and see whether or not they reliably produce noticeably different detailing and patterning. That was something somewhat of an accomplishment in the sense of the pictures. I experimented 3 different ice cube types on melted marbled rainbows and got the pictures of them in the making, and then also finished, and I'm pretty sure I got all those pictures optimized and organized into file folders so I can keep track of which is which, because there's no way I would ever remember. This is an idea I really have always wanted to do, but I feel like it's something I feel compelled to procrastinate until I feel certain I'll have the wherewithal or mental bandwidth to pull it off and like keep the things organized. I feel like I might have even started a draft web page. I mean, I could check right now, since I do, after all, have 2 phones. I did. At least the draft I most recently updated was back in mid-June, and let's see. There's no images added to it, but here, I'll give you a sneak peek. While I start drawing, the third thing, this is something much more well suited for like the website walkthrough video, web page on my website. Still to this day, I have made no progress, but worse than that, I'm pretty certain there's still mention of it somewhere, like coming soon on the, at least at minimum, probably the tour part 1 page. Should I see right now? Yeah, I should react on camera. Let's see if whether or not I ever actually went through and at least removed that. It was last updated in February of 2022. I'm not sure if that's when I first published it. I've probably updated at least some things on it since. Gosh, okay, let's preview the page. What? Well, why does it start by saying you saw where your tie-dye is photographed, stored, and shipped out from? No, you haven't, because that's the page I never finished. That's supposed to be part 2. That makes no sense. Okay, there's the answer. I mean, it's not like claiming there's a link like coming soon, but still, the page, the first sentence, I can't believe I didn't know this. It starts by alluding to something that doesn't exist. Oh, how the downstairs tie-dye dungeon has changed since. I have so many more awesome pictures I could just easily replace probably all of these with. Yes, oh my gosh, it still says click here to see where your tie-dye is photographed. photograph stored and packaged up for shipping. No. Wow, I need to remove this right now. No. I need to redo this page entirely anyway. But knowing myself, that's gonna be something that happens
eventually.